So hi, welcome to episode 6 of Just a Chat With. We're here with Jude Ower. And Jude is an entrepreneur, speaker and startup mentor. Jude is founder of and CEO of PlayMob, which is a technology platform that connects with games and purpose-driven brands in a very clever way. She'll tell us about that in a little bit. Jude has over 13 years of experience working in the gaming industry with brands like Unilever, RB, the UN, Niantic, I knew I was going to get that wrong, EA and Rovio. And Jude has been voted one of the top women in tech in Europe, top 100 women in games in the UK, and one of Creative England's top 50. She was awarded an MBA in 2015 and the New Year's honour list for entrepreneurship. Very well done.
Thank you.
And in 2011, Jude founded PlayMob, which has been used now by over 200 million gamers worldwide, which has resulted in a really positive impact on the world. And Jude is going to tell us all about that. So thanks for having us.
Oh, thanks for coming all this way.
That was a good spiel.
Well done.
Well done you. And well done me for getting through it. But yeah, no, it'd be great to hear a little bit about PlayMob for those who don't know what it is. I've known you for a little while, but PlayMob has changed. Yeah. So it'd be good to kind of like, where did it start and what has it evolved into?
Yeah, sure. So where we started, so when we met, we were essentially a games network, which was fundraising for charities through in-app purchase. So you would buy an item in a game like a new life or a coin pack, and a percentage of that money would go to charity, and then players can see the impact that they've made. So how many trees they'd planted, how many meals they'd provided. And that did really well. We raised over about $1.5 million for charity that way through small micropayments. But actually in 2015 we noticed a bigger opportunity, because from when we started and we were doing our fundraisers, players were asking, what more can I do? And they wanted to learn more about the topic. And in some cases they didn't really know about what they were fundraising for. So we thought, right, there's an educational element here that we're missing. Yeah.
And were these iPad games, or where are these games that people were playing?
So the mobile games, mainly mobile. I mean, in the beginning we were platform agnostic, so we were on PC games, we could be in console. We did a few on console, but mainly mobile. And it was mobile that we then noticed a bigger opportunity to move into. So we changed the company actually about 2016-17, because in 2015 the UN launched the Sustainable Development Goals, which are 17 goals that we need to achieve in the next 15 years from 2015. So by 2030, we have to achieve these 17 goals in order to make the world a fairer place for all. And it's things like poverty, hunger, climate, oceans, life on land, below water, education. So when these goals launched in 2015, we worked with an organisation called Project Everyone, which was founded by Richard Curtis, and he had a mission to make the goals famous. Because the goals were a follow-on from the Millennium Development Goals, which launched in 2000. And not a lot of people knew what they were. So Richard then wanted to change this and make sure that everybody knew what the goals were and what we had to do in order to achieve them. So in 2015, he had initiatives like the world's biggest lesson, the world's biggest prayer, the world's biggest, there's a few other things. And we said to him, well, why don't we do the world's biggest game? We have this gaming network, we can reach millions of gamers. Why don't we, switch on some messaging? It's not a fundraiser, let's just switch on some messaging through the media networks within the mobile games that we have reached through, and see if we can engage people in the goals. So, we gave it a go. It wasn't a standard model, but we thought it's a nice way to educate people on what the goals are and actually see if people actually click that space and want to find out more. So we did that, and we reached 110 million people in a week through the games that we were working with. Yeah, it's quite a lot.
Did you expect that number, or was that?
Not really. I mean, I think the first challenge is when we're running fundraisers, it had to be the right moment for a games developer to launch that campaign, and typically the date could move, or it'd be delayed, or it'd be bigger than you thought, it might be smaller than you thought. So there was a lot of unknowns, and so we weren't quite sure how the media side would work out. But when we made the call to all the publishers that we knew and just said, look, could you host this video or this interstitial? And all of them said yeah, because it was an easy thing for them to do. There was no dev work that had to happen. There wasn't an item that had to be created in the game, and which had to happen before, and so it took out a lot of the hassle for the publisher. So I think that was the first surprise, was wow, this makes it much easier for the publisher to launch something. And then in terms of reach, because we went out to so many publishers that we knew, we just thought we had no idea what to expect. You know, we're going to reach 3 people, or you know, but it was 110 million people. And we had a good
week. Then.
It was a good week. Yeah, it was a busy week. And we also had about 12.5% click-through rate, meaning that, you know, people were learning about the goals and wanted to find out more. So we were able to drive them to a landing page then to find out more.
And
so
was it specific types of publishers, or category-wise?
It was a broad range. I mean, mainly kind of social gaming, family-friendly games. Some publishers went a bit more beyond just putting the media space and put like a button in the game that you can click and information would pop up.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all like really family-friendly games for, you know, for kids and adults.
Yeah. And is that always sitting on the ad space in the games?
Yeah. So basically, in between levels, you could have an interstitial or a video, and that's where we put the first global goals message.
Okay.
So that worked, and we thought, okay, light bulb moment. You know, I think we've got, you know, massive reach, and players are engaging with it. Let's look at what more we can do with this. But we didn't want to just. We wanted something to be interactive, because we wanted players to really engage with the topic, and for us to get feedback in terms of how much they know about it and what actions they would take. Yeah. And so this is why we decided to then change the business and go down the route of using a playable ad format, which is a 30-second long game. It pops up in the same media space. So it's like a little mini game. And we wanted this to be seen as like kind of bonus content about changing the world, rather than another ad popping up. Because typically that space is used for promoting other games and apps. And it drives you to the app store, you then download the game or the app. So it's encouraging an action, but we wanted to turn that action into a positive action. Yeah. The good thing for the publisher, it's easy to do, and it doesn't drive players away to competition. Yeah. So you're keeping players within the game. Even if we are asking players to go to a landing page, it's not going to competition. And players don't have to play it. They can cross it off and then go back to playing the host game. But typically we're seeing about, you know, north of 25% engagement rates. We've seen as high as 54%. So 1 in 2 people are actually playing for longer than 30 seconds.
And is it just an education thing now, or is there still a monetary value to it? Or
it's for a couple of reasons. It's to educate players on specific topics. We work with brands around topics like self-esteem. We're working with Dove around self-esteem. We've worked a lot around kind of oceans and plastics. So, you know, how do you reduce your plastic consumption, and, you know, what is the extent of the issue? So it's education in terms of, you know, we're not just asking you to not use a plastic straw. These are paper straws, by the way. We're not asking you to you know, do these things without there being a reason. And actually, if you see the reason, then it encourages you to take action. So for plastic straws, for example, it's 500 million straws are used on a daily basis in the US. So that's the sort of information we're feeding through the game as you play. So an example would be we created an endless swimmer instead of an endless runner. So your little dolphin, you're swimming through the ocean, and you're having to collect plastic as you swim through different parts of the world. And the plastic you're collecting relates to the different issues in those parts of the world. So it's educational as you play, and then facts are being fed through, and then we're asking people to make a pledge. So we want people to be aware, we want them to learn more, we want them to take action. And actually over time what we want to see is we want to nudge behaviour to the point of then changing behaviour. And we can do that by retargeting players with you know, content about the same issue, and then looking at how the actions change. Now, what they tell us online might be different to what they tell us offline, but at least it gives us an idea of how behaviour is potentially changing.
And can you only retarget people that have interacted with the game?
Yeah. So people need to play the game, and then we can retarget them with, you know, you could have like an episodic journey of mini games that you can serve to people over time. But then looking at how behaviour changes over time. And also, you know, if it's something about like personal issues like cyberbullying, helping people, you know, point them in the direction of where to get help. Yeah,
and that's something that's getting much bigger now, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
so how have you seen like games as a platform change and evolve since you started back in 2011?
Oh, it's changed. I mean, it's massive. It's growing at a phenomenal rate. It's growing about, I think, 8% year on year globally. And it's now bigger than film and music combined. I mean, it's a $140 billion market. It's massive. I think the biggest changes that we've seen is the perception of gaming, from being kind of like, you know, the nerdy teenager sat in a cupboard playing war games to
tiny tots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Babies playing now. But that's the thing, you know, the age bracket is, you know, from tiny babies to, you know, I think the 25% of gamers are over 50. So people who kind of grew up with games in the 80s still play. I think social gaming is, especially like games that you play on your mobile, like Candy Crush, for example, Angry Birds are really popular with like all ages, but you've got women in the mid-40s is the biggest demographic for games like Candy Crush. So more women are starting to play, which is a bit of an issue for the industry because we need more women to be developing games for women. So yeah, if there's more women in the industry, we'll get much more diverse content. But yeah, I mean, in terms of size, scale, and also markets as well, in terms of where people are playing. So if you look at areas like South America, Africa and the Middle East, India, I mean, Africa and the Middle East has grown about 26% year on year. Which is massive because more people got access to smartphones, they've got access to the internet. And the number one thing we do on our phones is play games. And actually in some of these areas, kind of the newer markets, the games don't monetize as well, so they'll watch ads. So it's perfect opportunities for us to be able to promote about issues like sanitation and hand washing and other educational topics that are needed.
And how do you embed these messages and design kind of the experience? That's quite interesting.
So if you think about gaming like film, in film you've probably got about 6 to 8 story arcs. So gaming is the same in terms of the core mechanic. But what we do is we look at, what is the audience that we're trying to, who's the audience that we're trying to reach? What types of games are they playing already? What would interest them? We look at the topic, what message are we trying to get across and what's the objective? Is it to educate or change behaviour? Get people to take action, and then we look at which game that we think would be the most effective. So there's an ideation process that we go through with a client to figure that out, and then once you've got your template, you can then reskin that with new content, new characters, and build on that over time.
So do you have a kind of series of banks of templates now that you can work with, and makes it faster for you to develop,
exactly,
and faster for the brands as well?
Yeah. So exactly. So we've got a suite of templates, but If a brand wants something completely different, then we can do that as well. But typically, they'll take a template and reskin that.
Okay. And in terms of PlayMob as a team, then how are you kind of set up? Is it a lot of creative people? Is it a lot of tech people? Is it kind of balance of both? Just interested to know the dynamic of the team and how that sort of slots together. Yeah. So it's a bit of a mixture. So we've got the game designers, so the people who come up with the ideas and design the game, create the design document, production and development. We're going to be building up a team of data scientists and analysts. Actually, we're doing that in Scotland. So soon there'll be PlayMob Scotland, where we have our data team up there, because data is a core part of what we do. So we're going to be bringing in that team in-house. Why did you think Scotland for housing that team? Obviously you're Scottish, but... So I think two reasons. I mean, data and gaming talent. Because if we can bring in people who understand gaming, and obviously there's a big pool of data people in Scotland, you've got the data lab, you've got the Bayer Centre. We just think it's an interesting place for us to be, and it's world class in data and gaming. So what a better place to have a gaming data platform. And then we've got integrations people, so people that will help to basically get the game into our distribution networks, launch it, manage it, optimise it. And we've got people that manage the client side as well. Yeah, because I suppose there's that kind of pairing part, isn't there? Making sure it actually pairs with the brand and it works to their objectives as well. So exactly. That, that piece that needs to lock all together. Yeah. But we cover the end to end, and in some cases you'll be doing a lot of testing to see, is the game right? Is the messaging right? Are we promoting to the right games? But that's where the optimization comes in. Yeah. And in terms of as a business, obviously when you got into it in 2011. There wasn't really anyone doing what you were doing. Where did your sort of catalyst thought, how did you sort of kickstart and think this is something that people were missing out on, or was there someone else doing it that you got inspiration from? So I think, the big moment for me, but I think it was about 2010, 2011. So 2010, the Haiti earthquake happened, and Zynga, who made Farmville, they launched a campaign for the Haiti earthquake and raised about $1.5 million for the victims. Now, what they also noticed was, as well as raising all this money and having a positive impact, that players were spending money for the first time, playing for longer, so players were actually engaging with it on a much more deeper level. And then the founder of Zynga, Mark Pincus, his sister Laura Pincus, does a lot of work around looking at CSR and brands, how they implement CSR. And even back then she was saying actually brands who do deliver a positive impact are more successful because you attract customers, you attract the best employees.
So back then it was like starting to happen, and I thought, imagine in gaming and looking at the growth of gaming, imagine being able to get every game raising money for causes, or at least making a positive impact in the world. Because you've got, right now there's 2.5 billion people playing games. Yeah. It's a third of the world's population, or almost a third of the world's population. So you take that player power and then you can turn it into a force for good. Yeah. So it was then, and then I think the other thing was Jane McGonigal, who's she wrote a book called Reality is Broken. She estimated that at the time in 2011 we were playing about 3 billion hours per week collectively, but she said if we get to 21 billion hours per week we could start solving some of the world's greatest problems like climate change, obesity. So right now we're on about 16 billion hours, so we're getting close to that tipping point. But back then I thought, if there's a way that you can mobilise the entire industry, there must be a platform to do this, and nobody was doing it. So that was the reason.
So what do you see next in gaming? Like what's coming? Like once we hit this 21 billion, like what next? What's next?
The job done.
Turn it all off.
Exactly. So I don't know. I think like the way that gaming's always ahead of the curve when it comes to innovation, and I think there's just where we are right now is we're in mobile, but there's opportunities for us to be in other platforms like we were before. Move into console, for example. VR is really interesting. VR, AR, especially around what we are doing, because we can then overlay the game onto the real world and look at impact. I think events like esports is really interesting. How can you pick up what we do and get that collective power? 6,000-10,000 people in a stadium to make noise. So I think within gaming, there's just so much opportunity of where this can go. But where gaming goes, I mean, who knows?
And is there other people doing the same sort of things as you in this space, or are you kind of like the sole pioneer moving forward, or is there other people using it for good? Because my son plays games on iPad, mobile all day long, and you don't see a lot of good through a lot of the games. A lot of it I'm seeing there's triggers of gambling triggers and dopamine triggers and things, and it's nice to hear that someone's actually trying to use that ad space that sits right in the middle and do something positive and educate. And I'm just wondering how much of a ripple effect you've made, or are you still the only one moving forward? Is there a lot of other people following?
So I think there's companies that have moved into the ads for good space, and we know them really well. But they're more on kind of interstitial than video, and not within gaming. So I think in terms of gaming, we're still the only ones doing what we're doing with playable ads in particular. But I think playable ads they're such a new thing. They only came out really about a few years ago. Yeah. And I actually don't think it will be long until people start to clock on to the fact that, playable ads are big, engaging, they can gather up information in a positive way. Yeah. So I think we've got indirect competition, but no actual direct competition. So there's companies like Goodloop and Ecomedia and Juco that are doing ads for good. But we haven't seen anybody kind of move into the gaming space. But I think it's because if you come from gaming, it's you're in this world where if you're not in gaming, it seems quite confusing and hard to kind of navigate. But we've come from it and we understand the market, and we've got a massive network there already. So I think if someone came from within gaming, then we'd have competition. But I think we've kind of been running at what we're doing right now for the past on this new model for 2 to 3 years without doing any kind of really big PR or marketing. We're doing a few big things over the next 6 months, but I think we'll change that. But I think by that point we'll be, we've got our templates, we've got our data platform, we've got our team, we've got big brands using us. So, but the other thing as well is we're doing this for good. So if more people come into the space, then brilliant. They come and help fix the world with us.
That's it. You want to inspire and help some more people join it.
Exactly.
What have been the biggest challenges in the past few years as you've grown and as you've kind of been pioneering the sector?
I think one of the big challenges in the beginning was, this whole kind of notion of profit with purpose wasn't really a thing. So you pitch to investors and they'd say, is this a business or is this a charity? And I think we were really lucky in the beginning where we brought on investors who really got the fact that if you do good, it's good for business. But it's a longer journey to go on. We're not going to make, in 2011 we knew we weren't going to make returns in 3-5 years time. We knew it was going to be a bit longer. So I think that was one of the challenges in the very beginning, but that's all completely starting to change with, a lot of big brands now are doing, they're putting purpose at the forefront. Unilever, for example, have been doing amazing things with their brands. And then you've got brands like Diageo who are saying, we're going to put, billions of dollars into purpose-driven communications. And so it's really kind of, bubbling to the top of big brands' agendas, whereas before it wasn't. So that was a bit of a struggle. I think a couple of years ago, talking to brands about gaming, so some really got it, and some still thought, well, gaming's just for kids, and gaming's bad for us. But there's been a massive flip on that, even in the past 6 months, where big brands and agencies have gone, actually, this is a massive audience, bigger than film and music. But it was a bit of an education. We had to go out there and kind of educate the market, and I think that's been one of the hard things as well, because we've been like pioneering. We've had to educate the market from educating games publishers, educating charities, educating brands. So hopefully we've educated enough.
Hopefully today helps a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. This is what we do. We changed the model, and the reason that we changed was because it was an unpredictable model. It was difficult for publishers to integrate, but I think the new model solves a lot of those problems and actually opens up much bigger opportunities. But I think we were ahead of the curve, but now the markets have caught up, and so I think we're in the same place now. So there's still going to be tons of struggles, but for different reasons.
Do you see like the lines blurring between games and entertainment and film? Because I'm just thinking, like, we obviously specialise in like film content, and recently there's been a lot of experiments in interactive stuff. There's a lot of new startups doing that. There was Bandersnatch on Netflix, Black Mirror, and it's kind of real-time game engines like Unreal and Unity and all that. I just feel like there's quite a lot of crossover. Yeah, no, I definitely there's more. I think there's a time. Yeah, I think it's the time for those media to start converging. I mean, we go to Cannes Lion every year, and we were at a talk, and we were listening to. I think it was John Hegarty talking about how advertisers need to be thinking about innovation and be thinking about interactivity and tech, and we were thinking that's gaming, and storytelling. So I think now gaming's been taken more seriously and has been seen as a way to entertain rather than just waste time, because it has been seen as like a frivolous thing. That's what you do, kind of. But films are taken seriously and video is more serious. But no, there's definitely a crossover now. I think what we have to be careful of is non-gaming people starting to build games, because there still is a methodology to use in terms of you could end up wasting a lot of time and a lot of money if you're not sure what you're doing. So I think that's a big warning. But I think it is becoming much more mainstream. Yeah.
What you've achieved is no mean feat, right? It's like when I hear you speaking, it's like you first of all got to develop that idea, then you've got to figure out how to build a team, raise money, pull all the pieces together, grow a business, and then keep going.
And you're doing it in a model that hasn't really existed before as well.
Yeah,
it's hard enough to run an agency,
Did you always want to be an entrepreneur? What did baby or little Jude want to be when you grew up? Like, did you have that sort of vision in your head early on, or how did I'm just interested, like, the step before getting to where you got?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I just wanted to travel. Just wanted to see the world. I guess like when I was a kid, I was always coming up with ideas, and I liked like physically making games. So gaming had been a big part of life anyway. And then I don't know. I think I'm a bit of a problem solver. So yeah, and I guess
I think so. Just a little bit.
I think so. But yeah, and I like solving problems.
And you're now solving big problems.
Like trying to solve climate change. But yeah, so I think so I guess entrepreneurs are problem solvers. But yeah, I don't think I had a clue what I wanted to do.
No.
But then I think when loved gaming, got into my first startup in 2002 at university. They were building games for education and for training. So when I saw what they were doing, I was like, my God, this is amazing. It's a company that are doing using gaming to learn. And then
what's your favourite game?
What's my favourite game? Of all time?
Of all time. Just if you were to go home right now and you had to play a game.
Of all time, it's probably Little Big Planet.
Little Big Planet,
yeah.
Or the wee Teddy thing. What's it called?
God, what's it called again?
We've got one. Kieran, we have one in the studio. I can't remember the name.
Sock Boy or something.
Sock Boy.
That's really bad. I should know that. But that's probably like, favourite game of all time. But like one for like past, like playing on the train or on my mobile is Monument Valley. Love Monument Valley.
I suppose like, you probably felt you'd arrived at one point in the business and then you're at a new sort of level of business now, and we've been talking about lots of exciting projects. Do you feel that you've arrived yet, or do you still feel like, do you feel like that's you in your comfortable skin and you're here and this is, or do you feel like, maybe sometimes like hunting for, for where you're still going, or sometimes you feel like, oh, that's me, and do you get
I think, I don't know, like as an entrepreneur, do you ever feel like you've arrived? Do you know what I mean? There always feels like there's more to do. I don't know, I think...
Like you mentioned to me earlier on that like you never saw your business growing beyond 20 people.
Yeah.
And often you see people then get to 20 people and they go, oh, it won't go beyond 50.
We'll do a bit more,
I'm just interested to understand if you think this is PlayMob, we're in a happy place, we're doing good, the business is functioning, it's working, happy team, or have you got like, no, it needs to be, bigger, smaller, doing something else that you're not doing as well?
We've got a whole roadmap of stuff that I wish I could click my fingers and have right now. But I think that there'll always be that as we start to uncover more of what we could do. There's always going to be a roadmap. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, in terms of on the old model, and then you said, you could probably got to a point where you felt like, it got to a point where it was doing well. We had the big publishers on board. We were raising money for charity, but it was really hard to get campaigns off the ground because dates would move or there'd be commitments and we weren't able to get the campaign live for some reason. And that was really hard. But I think because we're doing something different, I think what startups have to be wary of is, press can clamour all over you and go, oh, you're doing something different, and then try and put you on a pedestal. But they can quickly knock you off that as well. But I think it's just to be mindful of like focusing on the business. So I don't know. I mean, I think I don't think I've ever felt like we've arrived yet, but I think that will start to come as we see more value for our clients, and I think we are really starting to see that now. And our model is all about shared value. We want to make sure that the players enjoy the experience and that the games publishers are not losing their players, and that the brands are growing and seeing a business benefit as well as positive impact in the world. So everyone wins, and I think when you start to see that working, we're going to see that through, we're seeing that happen already. We've seen that happen over the past couple of years. But the big thing for us is around data. So, building out our data platform and having much more rigour around our data and looking at how behaviour is changing over time. I mean, my whole thing is, like right now I'm looking at, real world data and gaming data and how that matches up and where the gaps are and how we can fill that. And, there's 17 sustainable development goals. So there's a lot of goals to fill. But yeah, I don't know, will there ever be a point of... I think when, we've got kind of like a standard kind of repeatable model now. And I think as the team starts to grow and as that becomes much more repeatable, will there be a time that I think, okay, right, we've done this. I don't know. We'll wait and see.
Well, do you think gaming can change the world?
Yeah. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that. I would have given up a long time ago.
So I suppose final question then, someone looking to start, anyone that's listening today that's maybe looking to start a business, you're now 8 years in, is that right?
Round about that, yeah.
8, 9 years in. What piece of advice, there's obviously running businesses, there's ups and downs, what one little piece or one or two, whichever you decide, would you give to someone today starting out?
So one piece of advice would be to trust your own instincts. I think you can end up with a lot of different opinions, which is great. Like listen to the opinions and bring on mentors and get their help and advice and guidance, because they, especially people that have been through it or come from your market, or especially people that have got the scars as well. You want to listen to people, but I think in terms of decisions that you make, trust your own instincts. And I think as soon as I started trusting my own instincts, things felt like they were right. So yeah, trust your own instincts. Listen to yourself. Don't think that somebody else with more experience is going to tell you the right thing. Because you'll know what the right thing is.
Great. Well, thanks so much.
No, thank you.
It's been very inspiring.
Thank you for coming down.
Great. Well, thanks for listening. If you like what you're hearing and you want to support the podcast, please rate and write us a review and help us get the word out. If you've been listening on Spotify or Google Podcasts, you can also watch the full version on YouTube. We publish each new version on the last Monday of every month, and so make sure you're subscribed. Thanks, and see you next time.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.